This is Reno Lovison, Executive Producer for Authors Broadcast and Chicago Broadcasting Network. I'm proud to say that we've produced video coverage of the Printers Row Lit Fest since 2012 and are happy to inform the public about this worthwhile event. The big news for 2019 is that the Chicago Tribune has given up management of Lit Fest, which has reverted back to the Near South Planning Board, the organization who first presented the Printers Row book and literary event 35 years ago. We at Chicago Broadcasting Network pay particular attention to Chicago authors and to books about the city of Chicago or those with Chicago themes. We do our best to amplify the voices of Chicagoans who are not typically in a position to get the attention of larger media outlets, either because they are emerging personalities or because they have a niche audience. It's for this reason that we're beginning to combine Authors Broadcast into Chicago Broadcasting Network, with the goal of providing a curated collection of audio and video content that focuses on Chicago history, Chicago events, and Chicago people, with a special emphasis on the performing arts, lifestyle, and the written word. So as I've said for the past 7 years, sit back and enjoy this special Printers Row Lit Fest episode of Author Showcase.
I'm Rebel Next O'Day, and this is my new release, Rockstar Going Down. It's about a rock star who signed a really bad contract, and he spends the entire book trying to get around it and fall in love with a girl, and he has to choose one or the other, the career or the girl, and that's why the rock star is going down. I also have 4 other books in the Sanity series, which was released starting last year up through June of this year, and they're about overcoming trauma to fall in love. I'm a 911 operator, and this is how I deal with that trauma. Insanity, Sanity's Side, Sanity's Sake, and Sanity's Edge, and then there's a novella called Sanity Secrets.
Hi, I'm Melanie Johnson, and I write the Sometimes in Love series with St. Martin's Press. The first book in the series is Getting Hot with the Scot, and it's all about a group of friends who are on the dream vacation of their lives in Europe, and a girl meets a kilted Highlander in a castle, and shenanigans occur. The next book in this series is Smitten by the Brit, and what we have here is someone who thought her life was going in one direction, and when something happens, she finds herself in a Jane Austen novel unexpectedly.
My name is Jaylee Bailey. I write young adult gay romance and adult contemporary gay romance. The books I've got with me here today, Guy Liner is a coming out, coming of age story set in rural Indiana. Very much along the lines of Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, which was a big hit a couple years ago. The other book I brought with me is Do-Gooder. It's a high kind of octane action adventure story of 2 boys that get kidnapped by mercenaries in Africa and have to sort of survive to get until they can get saved by working together. So.
So, where do we go to buy it?
How are you?
Do we have to go out to your shop?
Okay. Then again. Yes. Pretty good.
We're Sisters in Crime. We're an organization of mystery writers. We were formed in 1986 by the wonderful Sarah Pereski, who's right here in Chicago. This is the Chicago chapter, but we're national and international. And we don't just have women authors, we have Misters in Crime as well. So anybody who'd like to join us, sincchicago.com. So thank you.
My books are both set in Lamont, which is southwest of Chicago. They're historical mysteries. They have a present-day component and about an amateur historian who is solving mysteries from the historical past. And the mystery at Sag Bridge is actually also a ghost story. It's about a ghost who is haunting the historian, who then has to solve the mystery of her death, which happened in 1898. The mystery at Black Partridge Woods is actually about a Potawatomi Indian woman in 1817. And the Indian woman's son is accused of killing a white man, and she has to become a sleuth, track down who the real killer is, and bring him back. The amateur historian writes a book about her. The book is contained completely within the book, so you have a book within a book. Just as the book is being about to be published, she's attacked by someone who doesn't want the book to be published. Now she has to find out who would care about something that happened 200 years ago.
She finds her first case, Broken Dolls. They go to the scene of a crime where Deacon has been shot in the back of the head, flipped over, shot in the face. He's supposedly a good guy, so why would somebody do that and not steal anything from the house? So that's the first case that unwinds. Then in the Iron Collar, they go to South Suburban College, which you're familiar with. Okay, well there's a young woman dead in the chemistry room. Oh man! And the manner in which she's been killed, and the fact that a couple of other women are found killed the same way, makes her to feel like there's probably a serial killer. And so finally, that is very apropos, because here in Chicago now, it would appear that on the south and west sides there is a or several serial killers at large. Yes. Okay. Yes. So this one is $12.95.
The introducer and moderator for this afternoon, Heidi White of WTTW-TV.
Thank you. The Goodman Theater is producing The Music Man. It's running June 29th to August 4th. This is Jermaine Hill, an absolutely extraordinary music director who's worked all over Chicago. Hello. This is Jeff Packer. You may remember him as Candide in Mary Zimmerman's earlier production at the Goodman Theater. And this is Monica West, who's been in a number of Looking Glass Theater productions, including Moby Dick and Eastland. So I just wanted to start off with tonight's the Tony Awards, and I thought in honor of that I would start off with a trivia question, and whoever gets it, well, I don't know, I don't have a prize.
Can we play it, or that's for them?
Oh, it's for them. Oh. It's for them. No cheating, no. And it's very easy. So, Music Man debuted on Broadway in 1957, and it won the Tony Award that year for Best Musical, and it had very stiff competition. Who knows what it beat out?
West Side Story.
Okay, the lady is right. West Side Story. So I can say maybe it's a little controversial that West Side Story was a little bit ahead of its time, but The Music Man is so beloved and it's absolutely irresistible on many levels, and in its way, and we're going to talk about this, it was ahead of its time. So I just wanted to start, I did a little research about Meredith Wilson, who was born in Iowa, so it makes sense that this musical is set in an Iowa city. And he went on to New York. He studied at what was the precursor of Juilliard. He then played with the John Sousa Band, and then he became the first flutist with the New York Philharmonic. So he really ran the gamut, and he also created the score for The Great Dictator, the Charlie Chaplin movie. And then, only then, after working 8 years on a Broadway musical, he created The Music Man. So I wanted to start. But I never heard it sing. No, I never heard it at all till there was you. Stephen not only wrote the music, but he wrote the lyrics and he wrote the book. And I'm wondering if it makes, you've all done many musicals, and I'm wondering if it makes a difference when the lyricist and the composer are one and the same, like Stephen Sondheim.
I think it does make a difference to Mary. I think we've heard her say, Mary Zimmerman, that she likes the idea of one singular voice and vision in the making of a piece.
Arcs. Every character has a specific voice sort of in their music, and I think having one person responsible for creating all that makes it very, very, very clear in a way that sometimes doesn't happen when you have collaborators with different ideas.
With 110 cornets right behind, then I modestly took my place as the one and only bass, and I oomped up and down the square.
Same tune sung by Marion.
Good night, my son. Good night, my love.
Harold sings.
With 110 cornets right behind,
Marion sings.
Our star is shining, it's bright as light.
there were horns of every shape and kind.
So we see that Meredith Wilson uses the exact same tune to sort of show us the relationship between these two characters. Now, another way that he does it is in two separate songs, Sadder But Wiser Girl for Me, where Harold's talking about the kind of woman that he's interested in, and Marion's great song,
My White Knight.
My White Knight. Oh my goodness, hello. Yes, thank you. So I asked Jeff and Monica to work on this little mashup so that we can hear that they're actually the same song.
We can't listen to each
Bear with
other.
us. They can't listen to each other.
This is hard.
But this is exciting for me.
Don't bright-eyed, blushing, breathless baby, no baby. No, sir, that kind of child ties knots no sailor ever knew. I prefer to take a chance on a more adult romance. No, do young miss who keeps resisting, all the while she keeps insisting. No wide-eyed, wholesome, innocent female. No, sir, why she's the fisherman, I'm the fish, you see. Plop, I flinch, I shy, when the lass with a delicate air walks by, I smile and I grin. When a gal with a touch of sin walks in, I hope, I pray for Hester to win just one more A. The sadder but wiser girl's the girl for me. The sadder but wiser girl for me.
So it's actually kind of genius how he's able to slip in this relationship between the two of them musically. Interestingly enough, Jerome Robbins was first offered the score to choreograph The Music Man, but he turned it down because he thought the song sounded too similar. So he was able to hear sort of the genius of this this writing in ways that are not necessarily obvious to the rest of us.
And then he got to direct and choreograph West Side
West Side
Story.
Story. There you go.
He's busy that year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was quite busy.
He has a few good offers.
Yeah.
This book just came out in December. This tells the real story of the Wright brothers, not the David McCullough story. Wilbur Orville, he dies in 1912. In 1942, he has a biography written saying they're 50% partners. When in fact, Wilbur Wright was the one who worked with Octave Chanute to produce a plane that would fly, a control system. So it was really Wilbur Wright who invented this plane. Now this is the Al Capone, the 1933 World's Fair. For people who love Devil in the White City, 40 years later, Chicago did it again. Except this time they have to get rid of Capone in the worst year of the Great Depression. Sally Rand's there, Judy Garland, television, long distance calling. It's my 15th book, History Book Club selection. It's really how Chicago pulled it off.
Hi, my name is Randy Richardson. This is my book Obsessions. I did with my co-author Becky Sarwate. This is a collection of stories from famous Cubs fans, writers, broadcasters, actors, some former Cubs players, all telling their stories about being Cubs fans, from how they became Cubs fans to, you know, how it was when the Cubs finally won the World Series. So it's just taking their stories and sort of putting them into a collection and how they fit together into sort of a collection, and looking at how, you know, what is the Cubs identity, the Cub fan identity, and that's basically the idea behind the story.
Yeah, this is a great story. It's a true story based on my experiences. 40 years ago, as a young kid, I needed a job. I went to an insurance company that I didn't realize was crooked, and the first question they asked me is, do you have any problems working with black people? And I said, no, I don't. So the next thing I know, I find myself in the heart of Cabrini Green, the projects, knocking on doors, selling insurance to people who have very little means and no money, don't want to see me. A few months later, I meet this beautiful black girl, fall in love with her, and she's brutally murdered. She has white cream put all over her face with a message, basically, that black girls are not supposed to date white guys in the projects. And that's where the Black Ledger starts. It's a mystery thriller. It's doing fantastic. They're making a play about it on Broadway. It's in pre-production. We're very excited about it.
This is an Arcadia of pictorial history on Chicago State University. I wrote this book because I got tired of other people telling our story. Everybody hears about us on the news, usually it's negative, and I wanted to talk about what a wonderful history we have of 150 years. We started in 1867 in a boxcar, and right now we're a multinational, international university on the far south side of Chicago.
So Emily Cabot, at this point in her life, it's 1909, and her kids are like young teenagers. So her brother gets involved in a murder at the film studio up north, and she's like, "What's a film studio?" And her kids are like, "Haven't you seen Tom Mix?" And the kids go up and they watch Tom Mix, the cowboy, doing his stuff. And the girl, her daughter, really is into Wizard of Oz, and they're doing Wizard of Oz because Baum had made some films with Selig for his presentations that he did, his lectures and so forth, and he couldn't pay for them, so he let Selig do an early version of the Wizard of Oz, which you can see on YouTube.
Really?
Yes, it's a silent, it's film version of, you know, one reeler, 15 minutes. And then, yeah, there's lots of incredible stuff that was actually true. And Death at the Selig Studios takes place in 1909 when there were two film studios, silent film studios, the Selig Polygraph and S&A up in the north part of Chicago. It was right before they all moved to Hollywood, and my character, her brother, is involved with them, and he finds a film censor killed on one of the sets, and that's the plot for it, finding out what really happened.
I'm Greg Borzo. I'm an author who specializes in Chicago history. My newest book is The Lost Restaurants of Chicago, and it features restaurants that have come and gone. So it'll evoke lots of good memories about eating at the Black Hawk or the Como Inn or Binion's or whatever, and bring back lots of good memories. My other recent book is The Fabulous Fountains of Chicago, and it talks about how we have so many outdoor public fountains in Chicago that are unknown, unappreciated. And so this book hopefully will get people out to discover the outdoor public fountains all around the city. There's over 130 of them, so there's lots to discover.
So this is Forever Forever Home Friends. This is a series of books and stuffed animals that are all based on real rescue dogs. We also give part of the profits we earn to animal shelters in Chicago. So all the books kind of deal with different social issues, and they have discussion questions in the back to get kids thinking not just about how we should treat animals, but also how we should treat each other. We have 2 new books this year, and that is Kringle's Christmas and Just Me Wrigley. Kringle and Chewy are actually based on dogs from Alive Rescue in Chicago, who's a shelter that we kind of work with and give some of our profits to, and sometimes partner with on events. So Forever Home Friends is its own business. We produce the books ourselves and all of that, and then we work with shelters partnering on events and helping them out with giving them some of our money, giving donations to them, and also raising awareness about them and that kind of stuff. So yeah, right now we have 4 books available. We have Chewy stuffed animals available, and then the 3 other stuffed animals they just recently got funded on Kickstarter, so they're up for pre-order right now, and the rest of them are going to be coming out soon. Oh, okay. Oh, that's great.
It's a mix of things. I mean, how did you think of it in terms of, do you write about it as her as kind of villain, or as misguided, or is it a mix of things, or is it?
I think for me, as a playwright, it is my duty to advocate for every single character that I create from their point of view. So I try very hard not to go in thinking, well, this person is a good guy and this person is a villain, because there are all so many different shades of truth. There are many different shades of righteousness. Especially in the city of Chicago. I did not set out to write a hero or a heroine story for a Jane Byrne. I didn't want to do a biographical story. I really wanted to focus on these 3 weeks of this huge gesture and what happens in it. All right, you have to learn Jane's point of view, so you go and read all the things that she has recorded about the experience, something that she's written or an interview. So you do all of that culling, and then you have to do that same sort of culling for all of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of said the thing that she stayed 3 weeks. She begins by saying, we're going to move to Cabrini Green and we will never leave. And then 3 weeks later, she's gone. And actually, there's a Easter Day big festival they have on Division Street, and they close Division Street, and Marion Stamps leads a protest that maybe is the thing that pushes her over the edge. Yeah, said, wherever the mayor goes, resources go. And it was true. So Cabrini Green had been ignored for decades, and suddenly, Streets and Sand are there, suddenly painters are there, suddenly like fumigators are there, suddenly like they're cleaning up the place, they're making playgrounds. That's both like good and proof of how ridiculous it was that those services didn't come before. And of course, everyone else in the rest of the city is like, what the, how could you like put all the city's resources in this 70 acres? What about us? This is so important that I'm going to do this thing. And even if it's self-serving, that kind of leap, and I felt like there was a void. There was a silence. And so I, even those symbolic acts can have like, symbolism can mean something.
Hi, Kerry Cranston here, the president of the American Writers Museum, and it's a wonderful space that celebrates American writers and their impact on our history and our culture, so you should come by and visit. We have a lot of great author programs. People come in all the time to read their works, but the space itself is just a really interactive and fun place. We hope you come visit.
Hey,
Hey, my name is John Wayne Communale. I'm from Houston, Texas. Thank you very much. My book, Charge Land, on Rooster Republic Press, is about Jim Charge. He's the baddest ass dude that ever lived. He's coming through the door with a big dick and a smile, and he's taking over. Thought you were in charge? Forget it. You're gone. Jim Charge is taking over, and he does take over the world from the makeup counter of his local department store. It's the sharpest dressed anti-hero you'll ever meet. Welcome to Charge Land, bitch.
All right, my name is Michael Allen Rose. I'm the author of such books as Embry, Hard Boiled, and Rock and Roll Death Patrol. But today I'd like to talk to you about The Indifference of Heaven. This book is about George, a guy who owns a bar. He's owned it for years, and he goes into the bathroom stall to clean up the graffiti like you do when you own a bar. The problem is the graffiti keeps coming back, and it starts to sound more and more like a murder confession instead of graffiti. And then it starts to reference specific things from his life that nobody else could possibly know about. So as you read the book, you go down the rabbit hole with George and find out, is he crazy? Is somebody messing with him? Or is something supernatural going on? As you read, you become part of the problem because the graffiti in the book grows and the reader experiences what poor George is experiencing. The Indifference of Heaven.
My name is Caleb Wilson. I wrote a book called Polymer. And my one-line pitch is that Polymer is a combination of Castlevania and Purple Rain into one cohesive universe about celebrity monster hunters in a neon gothic world. It's through Eraserhead Press out of Portland, Oregon.
I am out of all of my books as well, but I do have a new book out that I'd love to tell you about. It's called Blood. My name is John Bruni. That's John with an H, and that's B as in boy, R-U, N as in Nancy, I. And it's the dark, phantasmagorical story of a corrupt cop who gets put behind bars and is mysteriously freed by the stranger Lucifer Robinson, who wants him to work for him, doing odd jobs that keep getting darker and stranger until nobody really knows what's really going on. And all of a sudden, this guy just wants to get out of it all. He wants to meet his daughter for the first time, and unfortunately, he's just stuck in this downward spiral. Nobody knows what's going on, but you will have your answers by the end of the book.
This is Reno Lovison, executive producer at Authors Broadcast and Chicago Broadcasting Network. If you enjoyed this program, be sure to visit our website to subscribe and be notified when new content is added. I'm also vice president of Midwest Writers Association. If you're a nonfiction author, journalist, professional business writer, or blogger, you can learn more about our association at MidwestWriters.com or look for Midwest Writers Association on Facebook. Thanks to everyone who participated. I hope this program inspires you to find a book to read at your local bookstore or library, or maybe inspires you to write a book of your own. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Authors Showcase featuring the 2019 Chicago Printers Row Lit Fest.